y'all, welcome back to Bedtime Noir. Tonight I'm going to share with you a snippet from a book of novellas. It's 3 novellas called LA Stories, and the subtitle says Sleaze is King, and it very much captures that kind of sleaze grindhouse vibe. If you're a fan of noir on the side of kind of dirty realism, transgressive fiction, then you'll find a lot to like in this book. It has a foreword by Rex Weiner, so you should start with that. That sets the tone for it. And then in this book, you find 3 novellas. The first one is called Temple of the Rat by Alex Cizak. I'm going to read a short snippet from that for you. And then you'll also find The Roach King of Paradise, which is another excellent story, and Lady Tomahawk by Andrew Miller, which is another really interesting novella with a lot of twists and turns. So this, if you like watching, like I said, those grindhouse movies, this very much has that feel, that element. It pulls you along. You're seeing stuff I don't want to see that, but then you want to see what happens. And so it very much kind of captures that mood. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. I don't want to do any spoilers. Some of these stories interconnect in some ways, but this is just kind of a slice of life from a day in the life of one of the characters from Temple of the Rat. So I'm going to share that with you real quick. Matthew Roberts turned off his radio. He washed his hands with a hose left on the front lawn of his apartment building. He dried them on his pants and entered the code for the door. The lobby smelled like body odor. He thought of the prostitute he'd saved earlier. It made him nauseous. A young couple he didn't recognize rode on the old-fashioned cage elevator with him. The girl's bell-bottoms hugged her hips so tight they might as well have been skin. She left the top half of her frilly vanilla blouse open. Her pendulous breasts begged for his attention. The boy had big, bushy sideburns covering his sharp cheekbones. Beautiful skin, like a surfer. Matthew faced forward. He told himself the kids didn't even exist, that he'd only imagined them. They got off on the floor before his. The boy had bathed in Old Spice. Matthew held his breath. When the girl passed him on her way out, she grimaced. He heard her laugh as the doors closed. Do we need to save all of them? He straightened his clothes as he stepped off the elevator on his floor and found the key to the door of his apartment. His wife, Linda Hanson Roberts, sat at the kitchen table, typing her latest Christian manifesto. As he walked in and greeted her, she tossed 2 volumes down her throat. She chased him with a glass of gin. Honey, she didn't look him in the eye when she spoke to him. Save her, save her. Matthew leaned over and kissed her forehead. How soon before he could duck into the bathroom and scrub his lips with soap and water? Her skin tasted like wet leather, not at all like the young girls on Hollywood Boulevard. The wrinkles above her brows grinned. The devil's grin. Linda reminded him more and more of his mother. That hadn't been the case when they'd met 10 years earlier. Unlike his mother, Martha Roberts, his wife made it clear she would punch him right back if he ever thought of raising a hand to her. How different growing up with a weak woman had been. Whenever his father, Dale Roberts, a truck driver, came home from the road, he spent most of his time beating his wife. Sometimes with a belt, sometimes with a wooden spoon, usually with his fist. He'd curl his hands into weapons, and the gouges and scars on his knuckles would announce themselves like war medals. Little Matthew Roberts threatened him once. First came the laughter, then the derision. His father, who looked like Hoss Cartwright from Bonanza and always reeked of Old Spice, had said, "You puny faggot, you can't even take your sister. How the fuck you expect to trade blows with a real man?" Then the shellacking. His dad's forearms eclipsed little Matthew's face. The old man clobbered him until he folded himself on the floor near their tacky, flower-patterned couch and sobbed. Matthew's sister, Camille, bullied him as well. She provided an early counterpoint to his spineless mother. After school, she'd knock him over and sit on his chest. She was a big girl, inflated to balloon proportions on a diet of Twinkies and donuts. She rarely showered, and she always wore shorts, rubbing her flabby, cheese-like thighs against him. She'd pin his arms down with her feet and straddle him. She'd flick at his eyes and his temples with her fingers. "What's the matter, shit-face?" she'd say. "You going to wet your panties?" His sister went to trade school, studied engines so she could be a mechanic for a race car team. Her dream, work the pits at the Indy 500. She had posters of Bill Vukovich and Maury Rose on her bedroom walls. She brought home her first girlfriend, a lipstick number named Deanna Camp, and Dale Roberts promised he'd dice his daughter with a machete if he ever saw her or any of her dyke bitch muff buddies again. Camille ran away for good, removing one of Matthew's problems. The night Dale Roberts killed himself, taking time to first choke his wife to death, Matthew hid in his bedroom. Little Richard shrieked, "You keep a-knockin'," into his headphones while his mother begged for mercy. The walls shook from his mother being thrown into them. Matthew dismissed the rumbling as a thunderstorm. He couldn't ignore the gunshot. Poking his head out when the ruckus stopped, he saw his dad's Army-issued .45 near his bedroom door. Enough blood splattered onto the handle to glue it to their dirty shag carpeting. So that's a little bit from the background of one of the characters in Temple of the Rat. These stories are set in kind of pre-Reagan era. I can't remember if I told you that or not, but that's pretty significant. It really captures the mood of that time. And so if you were around during that time, you'll recognize that. If it's a little before your time, it'll give you a sense of maybe kind of the atmosphere. And so anyway, I just want to share this with you. I recommend it. I hope you'll check it out, and I'll see you next time on Bedtime Noir. Oh, and if you saw Mitzi's ears moving around, Mitzi's joining me today too. She may join me the next time. I never know. But anyway, see you later. Bye-bye.